Hello everyone, welcome to the Armageddon Final Championship Series 2023. The show with more ups and downs than an out of control, unidentified flying object. We're happy to broadcast live from Berlin, and I'm Grandmaster Simon Williams, and I'm here with my great friend, International Master Jovanka Houska.
Oh, it's incredible to be here in this wonderful Armageddon Championship Series. And this, Simon, is the second day of our big finale. And let's have a look at our 8 players and check out some of those names. It's like the who's who of chess. Wesley So, Jan-Krzysztof Duda, Gukesh.
Some great players there, Jovanka, aren't there? And they all have qualified for this event in very good style. And who's going to win it? We don't know yet, but it's going to be very exciting to find that out. And yeah, we should have a look at some of the route here, shouldn't we, as well?
Definitely. And remember, yesterday we got off to a great start. We saw Gukesh power through against Wesley So, and also Jan-Krzysztof Duda was in impressive form. Let's take a look at yesterday's recap. Day 1 of the grand finale began with a heavyweight clash between Gukesh and Wesley So. Gukesh with the white pieces confidently rattled out the opening moves until Wesley made a devastating mistake, losing material and then the game. This meant that Wesley had to win in order to take the match to Armageddon, and in a wild middle game position, Wesley missed the chance to secure a huge advantage. Just as the players were both nearing down to those final seconds, Wesley blundered a piece and then the game.
The second match of the day saw Jan-Krzysztof Duda face off against Sam Shankland. The first game, a very exciting Sicilian, with Jan-Krzysztof crashing through on the king side and getting the victory. This meant in the second game, Sam Shankland had to win with the white pieces. Unfortunately for Sam, Jan-Krzysztof played very solidly and took his opportunity when he could, winning that game as well and progressing to the next round.
Yeah, and this is the grand finale, and it's been an incredible season so far. From March until now, we've had so many tournaments and qualifiers. Let's have a look at how we got here. This is the grand finale of Armageddon Championship Series 2023, the ultimate chess showdown of the year. From March till June, we had 4 amazing tournaments: the Americas, Asia and Oceania, Europe and Africa regional series, and a special qualifying stage, Women's Week.
32 of the strongest players competed for a spot in the grand finale, and only 8 of them made it through. All our events are broadcast live from the World Chess Club Berlin on Unter den Linden. This is make or break. Who will make the cut and become the Armageddon Championship winner? Don't go anywhere. This is Armageddon.
And of course, nothing gets done without the support of our partners, IT.com Domains. The official partner of the Armageddon Championship Series is IT.com Domains, a domain registry like no other. It provides a platform for anyone to create innovative domains and effectively showcase their online presence. So don't miss this opportunity. Visit IT.com today and create your unique online image.
Yeah, and we've got some riveting matches coming up today, but let's have a look at the overview and a look at the bracket and just see where people stand. And just to remind everyone, this is a double elimination format, so if a player loses their first match, they get a second shot. They just drop down to the lower bracket, but as you can see, some people already progressing there, and it's heating up very nicely.
It certainly is heating up there, Simon, and of course it's day 2. So let's have a look at the first 2 pairings of the day. You have to remember, these pairings were done randomly as well, and here we see Nodirbek Abdusattorov faces off against the creative genius Richard Rapport. And then we have face-off between Humpy Koneru and Bibisara Assaubayeva.
And our first match of the day is Nodirbek versus Richard Rapport. And these two have played a fair few games before, and it's very equal, with a slight lead of 3 wins to 2 for Nodirbek. But they're both exceptional players. You have Nodirbek's brilliant tactical style, and Richard Rapport, well, he's a maverick. He can play in a really interesting and strong way on his day, beating everyone.
Yeah, and let's take a deep dive into the young Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Became a grandmaster at the tender age of 13. That is young. Has a massive blitz rating, and get this, was the world's youngest rapid champion. He became that in 2021 when he was just 17 years old. And of course, who can forget last year when he helped the Uzbek team be Olympiad gold winners. And fun fact, of course, he's won them all because he's under-8 world champion. Let's have a look at Nodirbek's route to the final.
Uzbek's number one, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, started his journey by inflicting India's Vidit a severe 2-0 score. Nodirbek would then meet his match in round 2. His nemesis Gukesh stopped him in the Armageddon game, and Nodirbek hit the lower bracket. There, he played Katrikayan, to whom he beat severely, winning the match with a perfect score. He then left Parham Maksudlu no chance either, and achieved an all-important match against Vladimir Kramnik to determine who would reach the final. Abdusattorov's vividness allowed him to spot a 3-fold repetition that ended the match after he'd won Game 1 and reached the finals. Despite his mini-match victory, Nodirbek unfortunately crumbled and was helpless as Gukesh claimed tournament victory. Will Abdusattorov manage to climb one more step on the podium?
A great player, Nodirbek, and he's going to be one of the favourites for this event, but you can never rule out his opponent. His opponent is Richard Rapport, who won his leg of the competition to get here, and he was a grandmaster at the tender age of 13, 2013 European Rapid Champion. He was also the second for the current world champion, Ding Liren. His style is so exciting. He's a maverick player, always coming up with inventive ideas, but with a sharp tactical eye, and we can hear more about this great player now.
2023 was a staggering year for Richard Rapport's resume, confirming his status as fans' favourite. In the Europe and Africa leg of the Armageddon series, he was altogether ruthless. He first punched his ticket to the winner's bracket in an Armageddon game by defeating Netherlands' number 2 player Jordan van Forest 2-1 before getting the better of France's Maxime Vachier-Lagrave 1-5-0-5. In the semis, he gave 2021 World Cup winner Jan-Krzysztof Duda no chance and reached the final where they would meet again, as Duda claimed his spot from the jaws of elimination. Rapport showed no mercy there, inflicting the young Pole a severe 2-0 score. Intuition, creativity, trust in his systems, it seemed like Richard was simply untouchable during the tournament. Will he be able to repeat that feat in the grand finale?
Well, we will find out because we are less than 1 minute from the start of play. But let's refresh ourselves on the rules. The players will be playing 2 games of Blitz at the time control of 3 minutes plus 2 seconds. And in the event of a tie, the match will be decided by none other than the crowd favorite of
Armageddon. And we haven't got Armageddon yet in this competition. Will it happen today? The rules of that is that white gets 5 minutes, black 4, but white has to win. And here is our brilliant arbiter, and Anastasia makes sure that no untoward business happens in the chess games, like someone stealing the queen off their opponent's board. That wouldn't happen at this level, I'm sure, but you never know.
You absolutely would not believe what happens when the clock is ticking down. And tick-tock, we are 7 seconds away from the start of play. We see there the young Nodirbek there with the white pieces, Richard Rapport with black. And they are off, and we have the first move. It is the queen's pawn 2 squares forward. How is Richard going to handle this?
Wow, very exciting opening on the board. This is called the King's Indian Defense. The setup that Richard is playing has been favoured by such great players as Bobby Fischer, ex-world champion, Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest players of all time. And they're into what is quite a main line here, with Nodirbek having the big centre, but Richard playing against that centre.
Yeah, and there we see Nodirbek retreating the dark squared bishop. It was under fire, it's gone to support the center. And now Richard has a choice. He can step forward with his knight, attack the bishop, or he can try to just develop his pieces and put pressure on the center. No, he steps forward with the knight, attacking the bishop. And there we see Richard retreat the knight, and potentially we could see a threefold repetition. If the position is repeated 3 times, then the game is declared a draw.
Yeah, it's a bit peculiar play by Nodirbek, actually. This bishop idea, he's moved his bishop out, he's moved it back, and he's moved it back again. It's like that bishop that Nodirbek is moving is a little bit drunk there. It's not really sure where it's going to go, and it goes all the way home. And we see an exchange in the center. Now, this exchange is supposed to be okay for black. It's supposed to lead to a fairly even position, but we're going to have to see what Nodirbek has up his sleeve here. The more simplifications you get in chess, the more high the likelihood of a draw is. And actually, positionally here, Jovanka, black could even be better because black has control of a central square in the future, but white doesn't. And that is right on that open line in the middle of the board, which is going to be a key factor of this position.
Yeah, and just talking there about the position, take a look on the right. There's an evaluation bar which tells us what the computer's assessment of the position is. The more it swings in one side's favor, the more that favor that advantage has. And there we also take a look at the heart rates, and we can already see that Richard is in the red. His heart rate is 148.
Yeah, that is quite a high heart rate there. Obviously feeling the pressure, and he's now got to find a way to deal with this knight jump. He just retreats his knight. This is very interesting. He's keeping pieces on the board, and this is typical Richard. He wants a dynamic fight. He doesn't like exchanging unless he has to. He wants to keep the position as interesting as possible, and that knight in the middle will probably be kicked away now by this move. That pawn is giving it a little kick in the shin. The knight has to retreat, and Richard just moving his queen to a better square there. And one important plan is Richard's knight on the left-hand side at some point will start moving towards the center, and if that happens, Richard could get the advantage here.
Yeah, and but for, there are 2 players playing the game, and for Abdusattorov, it's going to be all about the center. It's all going to be about the left side of the board. He wants to put his rooks on the open line. Rooks belong on open lines, remember that tip. And then there he will push back the black knight if it steps forward. And there we see Richard maneuvering the knight and trying to put it on the e6 square.
Yeah, both players' heart rates in the red. Richard 153. They do say that playing a long game of tense chess loses a lot of calories for you, and this has been my tactic of exercising throughout my life. Rather than going for a jog, I sit down and play a game of chess, maybe with a whiskey. Great way to lose weight. And the knight now comes into the middle, and this is the standard plan here. Richard is now threatening to win the pawn, so Nodirbek defends that pawn with another pawn, and Richard now opening up the queen side. But this is a very risky move, Jovanka, that one. Maybe white could push the pawn again, and he does.
And he does, and he goes for it. I mean, it was very tempting to make this move. After all, if there is a trade of pawns, then white's c-pawn can step 1 square further and attack the knight. And it's not just that. Also, the knight on c3 can spring forward to the d5 square in the center and attack the black queen. Ooh, Richard's position is looking shaky.
Both players now keep an eye on the clock. They've spent over half their time, and Richard is getting to that critical moment where he could be under a minute. And he just develops his bishop. I like this move. You've got to get all your pieces working, and this is trying to indirectly control some central squares, but I love what Nodirbek's done here. This is typical play from a young player. He loves playing aggressively. Let's remember, he was one of the youngest ever World Blitz champions, bracket champions, so he's an incredibly talented player. Lots of exchanges there, Jovanka.
Lots of exchanges, but still, there's so much dynamism in the position. It's open. Everything will be decided on a move-by-move basis, and look at that. Nodirbek comes in, offers a trade of light square bishop, and he does that in order just to reinforce the control on that d5 square in the middle.
Yeah, this is a good positional move, and Richard exchanges that one off, and now the white knight kind of goes the wrong way. I do feel here that black should be okay. The evaluation bar, though, you can see it more in white's favor. I think black should be okay because it's a symmetrical pawn structure. That means there's less unbalance in the position. And can Richard now use one of those knights to better effect? Maybe throw one in to attack the queen. White still has a little bit of pressure here, though, it seems.
I think white has definitely what we call a niggle, right? You can imagine that pawn on the
Niggle
left.
or a nibble?
A nibble.
A nibble, yes.
Oh, niggle. I always say niggle.
I always say nibble, like a little nibble, like a little rabbit nibbling away at his carrot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a little
semantics. Anyhow, what I wanted to say was that white has that possibility of pushing that one pawn there on the left side of the board up the board and starts annoying the black knights.
And yes, white's queen is a lot more active, but also the time. Richard now going under 30 seconds. His heart rate, 161 there. And we can see the knight moves to the side of the board, offering an exchange of queens. Nodirbek has to do something about this queen exchange. Will he move the queen? Will he defend his queen? Or will he exchange queens here?
And he goes for the exchange and then initiates another set of exchange. Now the rooks have left the board. Rook takes rook, played by Nodirbek. And there we see Richard, just 22 seconds left on the clock. And still, white has uncomfortable pressure there on the left side of the board.
And we are now into the last part of the game, the ending, as the queens are off and they're running out of pieces. It looks to me like white still has that pressure. That last move attacks some of Richard's pawns on the king side. And how is Richard going to deal with this? He might lose a pawn here or get an uncomfortable situation. And Richard pawn structure, those double pawns in the middle, they look pretty ugly to me, Jovanka.
I know, and the great Beth Harmon herself said it. She does not like double pawns. And Richard, with only 8 seconds on the clock, he has a difficult position. And here is where the young Uzbek player is in his element. He is a universal player. He loves to massage those positional advantages. And look at that, a pawn has dropped from the board for Richard.
Oh,
maybe a second one.
There's a big check. Oh my words. The knight jumps in, attacking the king, attacking the rook. That's what we call a fork. Winning the game, winning material. I didn't expect that, Jovanka.
No, it just fell apart for Richard. But what a positional masterpiece there from Abdusattorov. And he takes the early lead. Wow, impressive stuff from the teenager.
Yeah, he looked to be in very good form there. I mean, he didn't get much of an advantage, but he was never worse there. And he always had some kind of
he was
advantage.
Always slightly better,
Little
right?
nibble.
Little nibble there that he could work on. And black just could not neutralize all that pressure there on the left side of the board. Wow, what a display. Shall we take a look at some of the highlights?
Let's do it. So, yeah, it was a very good game by Nodirbek there. And first of all, it seems like they're giving the floor a little clean there, which is always nice to see. You've got to keep the hygiene levels up in a chess tournament. And but it was just a very impressive display. He was never in trouble. That's the kind of way you should play with the white pieces. When you got the white pieces, you don't want to take too many risks because you have the advantage, like having the serve in tennis. But you want to pressurize your opponent little by little without having the risk of losing the game. So really a perfect game there.
It looked perfect to me. You know, he did everything to plan. You know, got a very slight advantage, then had the better pieces, and then just kept putting the pressure on Richard until Richard cracked.
That's right, yeah, and it was that cracking at the end when the pressure was building up there at the end part of the game. Richard lost a pawn and he just put his rook and king on a bad square, but he was so short a time. That's the key thing with Armageddon.
Yeah,
you got to look at your clock. It's not all about playing moves. You got to be quick with the wrist like Bruce Lee.
Exactly. Yeah? And when you get to less than 10 seconds, well, basically it's like the randomizer machine has come into operation. All manner of mistakes can be made there.
Indeed. I mean, they call it the one finger punch. Is that what they call it in Kung Fu? But in chess, they call it the one pawn knockout wrist blow. And you've got to be quick with that wrist because that's what you press the clock with. You've got to get that, and you've got to make sure you keep your time up because when you get short time, you're not going to think as well. And that was indeed a key factor of that match. And a great start for Nodirbek, and Richard needs to fight back now after that one.
Yeah, he definitely will have to fight back. He will need to win if he wants to take this match to Armageddon. And of course, we haven't actually had an Armageddon in the finale so far. Yesterday's matches were very cleanly won, and maybe we'll see. What do you think, Simon? Do you think we'll see a first Armageddon?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, Richard is a great player, and he's really dangerous when he's got the white pieces. I mean, he comes up with some really exciting ideas, and well, we can see some of the highlights here. And this was the first point where Nodirbek really put the pressure on. He played a very tricky move here after a long think, and he opened up that area of the board, the left-hand side, called the queen side, because that's where the queen starts the game. And that gave him the initiative. Very important to have that in chess. And here we see the end, Jovanka.
Yeah, and we see that already white has the advantage attacking the knight there. And here is the moment where Nodirbek actually won material, and he provoked a critical error from Richard, who just blundered his rook.
Yes, even top players blunder, and that gives you all hope out there. If you're a lower rated player, it's not always the grandmasters, they're still fallible sometimes. But we're now 50 seconds until the next game, and Richard has the serve here. Is he going to do it, Jovanka? What do you reckon? I reckon he's going to do it. I reckon we're going to get an Armageddon today.
I certainly hope for an Armageddon.
Is he going to do it?
Oh, it's a tough ask.
Sound convinced.
Abdusattorov is such a strong player. He's confident. I mean, I saw a quote recently where they called him monster. He had a monster mentality. And talking about monster mentality, he will need to bring that to the game right now if he wants to go through to the next stage in the winner's bracket.
10 seconds until the start of this game, and Richard does have those white pieces. What's he going to play? Place your bets now, everyone. It's going to be very interesting to see. Is it going to be a queen's pawn? Is it going to be a king's pawn? Something else here? I reckon the queen's pawn. And he's going for the king's pawn as soon as I said that.
Yeah, and well, Abdusattorov, he is playing fighting chess because he responds with an opening called the Sicilian, and it is the accelerated dragon on the board. And Richard playing crafty stuff because he's not actually pushing the queen's pawn 2 squares forward, and in fact he's delaying that.
Yeah, quite a calm start by Richard here, avoiding a lot of the sort of more well-analysed positions you get and trying to go his own way. And this is typical Richard, trying to sort of muddy the waters and not rely on memory. Just saying to his young opponent, let's play a game of chess. Let's not rely on that, what you've learnt through books. We're going to go our own path and, see how it goes. And, well, Nodirbek is developing his pieces very sensibly here, putting pressure on white's pawn in the middle.
Yep, and Richard is playing the slow game. He is developing his pieces. He's getting ready to put that knight towards the center, and he will be breaking in the center when the time is right. And there I can already see that Richard's heart rate is probably one of the lowest we've seen it so far, but still pretty high at 134.
It's a little bit high there, and with the last move, I like this last move by Nodirbek because he's preparing to advance on the queen side and gain space. And chess, again, you've got to think of those analogies to do with war, because that's apparently what it's based on, and it's about gaining space. The more space you gain, and Richard there gains space in the center, the easier your position is to play. You have more options with more space.
And big threat on the board from Richard. He is threatening to push his pawn in the center, the d pawn 1 square forward, attack the bishop. So that's why Nodirbek responds very aggressively, but it does concede the square for a knight to jump to.
Yeah, and there is maybe a little tactic that Richard's thinking about here. If he moves his knight forwards, black might be able to capture something in the center. So a capture here first. Where's his knight going to go? And that's why he goes backwards. But you don't really want to retreat your knights or any piece, because you're putting them back in the starting blocks where they can't have any effect on the battle. And this is not ideal. On the plus side, he has the big center. So The centre looks nice. I know you like playing with
I
the centre.
love the centre, Simon. It's my favourite thing in chess. And, well, the question is one of timing for Nodirbek. He has the advantage. He's got the lead in development, but he has to do something quickly. Otherwise, Richard will simply develop the dark squared bishop, and he will have that massive pawn centre in the middle. And there you can see Richard, he's trying to manoeuvre his way out of dodge.
Yeah, but Black also has that space on the queen side. Black has a very solid position, and with that last move, Nodirbek is opening up his rook on the open file. He brings his queen into the game. It still seems very even, this position at the moment. Will Richard now do the move you recommended, move the bishop to line up against the queen? I think that'd be a good move, get all your pieces in. Oh, he plays a very calm move there.
Yeah, I think he's preparing it.
Yeah, stopping a knight jumping in there.
Exactly. And now it's going to come out. There you go. And now the dark square bishop is eyeing up the queen. And Nodirbek has a choice. He can either ignore it completely and just continue with the plan of lining up the rooks on the open line. And he does. Or I was going to say he can move the queen out of the way. And, well, look at the way that Richard has maneuvered the pieces. Suddenly his light square bishop wasn't on a good square, but now it's on a great square. But the question is, can Nodirbek actually grab a pawn in the middle of the board? Would you touch it?
Well, there's a tactical idea that Richard has. If Black's knight captures that pawn in the middle, because one way to work out if you can win a pawn is how many pieces you have attacking that pawn, how many pieces you have defending, but he couldn't tactically, it didn't quite work there. And both players moving with their queens now. Nodirbek trying to block up that very strong bishop of Richard's by putting a pawn in the way, taking the range away. It's like building a brick wall in front of an archer, so the archer can't, well, unless he can get it over the brick wall, a very high brick wall, like 400 meters high. That's what he's doing there.
Yeah, and the big problem actually for White is how on earth is the queen gonna mobilize herself? I mean, the rook is, and putting the queen in the corner doesn't make a good impression there.
Yeah, it's kind of a wait and see position at the moment. Both sides have a good structure and they're kind of waiting for their opponent to make the first committal move here, because it might weaken the position if you do something committal. So they're trying to play as many useful moves that improve the position as they can. And
yeah,
that bishop has gone backwards and forwards the whole time.
It was attacked, and there we see Nodirbek also putting his queen in the corner, just piling on the pressure on that pawn on the middle. And Nodirbek's pieces are harmonizing really nicely. The rooks are doubled up, and Richard, well, at least he has more time on the clock. But it's very difficult for both sides to come up with a concrete plan of improvement now.
It is. It's a bit of, again, wait and see, but the time could be very important here. And Nodirbek has half the time of Richard. He makes the first move, and the evaluation bar does not like this. The evaluation bar is saying Richard now has a great position, and that was the problem. You have to sometimes be incredibly patient in chess, and I think Nodirbek was not patient enough there. Richard throws his knight towards Black's king, and there's a big attack brewing around the Black king there. And will that Black king be able to defend itself? I'm not sure it will.
Well, Nodirbek only has 24 seconds in order to orchestrate a defense. And there we see Richard just calmly improving the placement of the dark square bishop. And, well, offering a trade. Is Richard going to go for it? Yes, he does. Ooh.
And he goes for a trade, and this position really heating up. And another white knight. Look at those white knights. They're dancing quite elegantly
but look at
around
this.
the board. And the knight is trapped
in the middle of the board.
Ooh, the Black Knight. You can see the look on Nodirbek's face there. He can't believe that his knight in such a seemingly good square has nowhere to go. The white pawn is ready to take that knight, and the knight has nowhere safe.
And he only has 10 seconds. Oh, are we going to see Armageddon? And there, Richard goes up material, and now another knight just springs to life there on the right side of the board.
The only problem White has is the queen. Richard's queen is trapped in the corner, and it's going to be quite hard to get that queen out. But if he can find a way to mobilize his queen, then he's going to be doing all right. So Black actually has a bit of compensation here, and practically it's not that easy to play. But look at the clock there. Richard, 1 minute, 5 seconds. Nodirbek, 4 seconds. The knight comes in with a check. The other knight comes in. They're dancing the dance of death there. but can Richard open the position up anymore?
Yeah, he will need to activate the queen. You nailed it there, Simon. And that is the big problem for Richard. Yes, he is material up, but what will he do? Will he try to initiate a set of trades? Well, no, he's making room for the queen. And now the queen is going to be heading to the right side of the board. What is happening? This position is going crazy. I mean, what, are we going to see queen takes rook? Yes, we are.
And Nodirbek is trying to complicate it. He has the queen, but Richard has the 2 rooks, and 2 rooks are generally stronger than the queen. And also, there's the extra knight, and that knight takes a pawn with check. The Black King is living very dangerously here, and Richard should really win this game now, taking it to our first Armageddon, unless he makes a mistake. It's still possible to make a mistake. He wants to get those rooks in the game. Look at that. Lifting it into the position there.
It's going to be a checkmating attack. And look at that king right on the edge. And there you see Nodirbek is suffering there.
He is, and this must be checkmate very soon. He just needs to get his other rook across. Is he going to do that? He's going to do it with a check. And I think there's going to be checkmate. Oh, beautiful move there.
Sacrificing a rook in order to trap the king in a checkmating net. Richard showing his class as he wins on demand and takes the match to Armageddon.
Oh yeah, that's what we want. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Ho, ho, ho.
We love an Armageddon here in the studio because Armageddon is the name of the show, but it's also the most exciting part of this competition because they don't get any extra time. We get lots of craziness on the board, lots of hands flying, all that, whatever I said it was, the Bruce Lee wrist has to come out into force there, banging the pieces. But a great game by Richard there.
Absolutely great game, and it was amazing how he trapped that knight in the middle of the board. And let's look at some of those critical moments. And it was here that Nodirbek went wrong. He took decisive action, but it was inappropriate here. And now Richard's knights just spring to life there on the right side of the board.
Yeah, they say patience is a virtue, and in that position, Nodirbek needed to show a bit more patience. And around here, Richard now traps the Black Knight with that very calm little pawn move there. Pawns attack diagonally, and the Black Knight in the middle has no safe square to run away to. So that wins points, and at this level, points are very important.
Yeah, points mean prizes, Simon, and wow, very impressive. And the players are going to get ready, and here we have another critical moment, and it's here where Richard decides to allow the complications because he has calculated that in this particular position, the 2 rooks and the knight is going to be more than sufficient compensation for the queen.
Yeah, and the queen is obviously a great piece, but 2 rooks, if used wisely, can really rock and roll on the board, and the rock and roller Richard used them brilliantly in that game. And the end was just so beautiful here. You might be wondering what's happening in a minute. Why did Black resign? Because isn't Black winning a rook? But Richard has seen a little bit further, and now the king goes back. There's one more check, but if the Black king takes the rook, Richard will come in with checkmate with the other rook, called the Arabian checkmate. That pattern, one of the first ever recorded checkmate in a book published, I think, 1,623 years ago.
It is one of the oldest checkmates. And talking about checkmates, talking about drama, we are less than 40 seconds away from the grand finale's very first Armageddon. And goodness me, after all that show-stopping action here, we can see the players waiting in pitch darkness. The suspense, the tension. This is chess at its finest,
yeah,
and more raw form.
Let's remind everyone the rules, because it has changed a bit now. It looks like they have more time, but actually it's not the case. White does have 5 minutes, Black has 4 minutes, but they don't get any time added on every time they play a move. Yep. So it's a guillotine version, and White has to win. So if it's a draw, Richard goes through. So Richard has the black pieces, and we have another King's Indian defense here.
Yeah, and we do see Nodirbek actually shake things up. He's chosen a different system. It's a very solid system. And Richard now offering Nodirbek a choice. Will he step forward in the middle of the board? Will he trade pawns? Well, he goes for the trade of pawns. And take a look at Richard's clock. That is going to be a pressing factor in this particular game because he does have that 1 minute deficit.
Yes, he does. And Nodirbek actually going for a very calm opening system here. He's basically saying, I'm not going to take too many risks. I'm going to try to make this a long game where I'm going to slowly grind you down, Richard. And I like what Richard's done. He's made the position, the pawn structure equal, symmetrical. That gives you more drawing chances in the position, and it looks very even, this position, to me at the moment.
Yes, but one of the key things when it comes to Armageddon is that there are two strategies to play with the white pieces. You can either go for a quick attack or you can go for the long game, as you've highlighted there, Simon. And the whole point is that you will simply win on time if you play the long game, because they see Nodirbek just retreating the bishop. If you can keep the pieces on the board, if you can not allow simplifications, then Nodirbek will win on time.
And the heart rates again, Richard obviously feeling the pressure here. His heart rate is up to 150 at the moment, and that is a high heart rate. And with the last move, Richard's ready to get his queen into the corner, I think, which might look a little bit odd. First of all, his knight is attacked, so he has to move it. He moves it into the center of the board, maybe offering some exchanges there. And we see more exchanges. They should favor Richard because, again, you're getting nearer to that really important draw. A draw, black goes through. So how is Nodirbek going to complicate this position?
Also, he has to stay ahead on the time as well. And there we see Nodirbek lifting the queen and Richard trading off the rooks. And now Richard simply retreats the knight. White still has some small pressure there on the left side of the board. But Richard should not be in trouble. It will come down all the time to the clock.
Yeah, and I don't think Nodirbek seems that comfortable with this position. I mean, he did pick this, you know, when you pick the opening, you kind of know where the game's going to go. And with the white pieces, you can kind of dictate the pace of the game. But I'm not that impressed with what he chose here.
Well, also bearing in mind, look at the clock times. Richard has 3 minutes and 7. Nodirbek only has 3 minutes and 9 seconds. There is no time advantage anymore.
And now Richard getting ready to use his rook as well. He wants to swap off the rooks on the next move. White's rook is on that open line, and Richard could try swapping him off. But first of all, he does have a pawn which is under attack here, and that is one weakness that Richard's has a bit of a problem to deal with. That pawn on the left-hand side, which the white queen and the white bishop next to white's king are attacking here.
Yeah, and that is why Richard decided just to protect that pawn just in case of any nasties there. And Nodirbek making a small developing move just to give the king some air. And well, Richard breaking out there on the left side of the board and Nodirbek grabbing the space.
Yeah, but Richard able to exchange off the rooks here. This is his idea all along. Just get as many pieces off the board as you can. You're getting nearer to king versus king. So Nodirbek says, no, I'm going to keep the rooks on the board, meaning Richard takes over the open file. And now he can probably get the queens off quite shortly. But he's just playing a very useful move first. But is this a bit of a mistake here? I don't see any obvious reason why.
Yeah, I don't see any obvious reason why either, and I think it's a very nice, useful move. He's getting ready just to give the king some space to move to.
And he now comes in, that knight. I love that move. That black knight is going to find a better square. It wants to move over to attack white's queen on its next move. And, oh, what is this move? The evaluation bar hates it. Is this a bad move here? The knight jumps in. What is this move?
What is it?
The evaluation bar says that Richard is now winning.
But he can
you just take the knight?
You can just take the knight.
Is it a bluff? Is he bluffing?
Completely bluffing. I mean, you can just take the knight, and once the queen gives a check, you can step forward with the king.
But maybe the rook then comes down. We're going to see, is Nodirbek bluffing with this move, or is it a piece of genius? The black king steps over, but Richard is now a piece up. This is the move that looks scary, but there's knight c5.
Oh.
What a brilliant move that was. Attacking the queen, attacking the rook. This is a killer move from Richard.
Yeah, and suddenly you can see that there were 3 pieces from Nodirbek that were loose. And this is the problem. The bishop was loose there on the b2 square. And now Richard is a piece up. Once again, we've seen this before.
Wow. I mean, look at his heart rate as well. If it goes any higher, we need to call an ambulance. I'm not sure what the emergency number is here in Germany, but we'll have to find out shortly. He's doing very well here, though, with that extra piece. He's moving his king over to get to the queen side. I mean, there's still some chances of Nodirbek because even though he's a piece down, he has a passed pawn. That means a pawn which is very close to queening. If you get a pawn to the other end of the board, it comes a queen on the left-hand side there. And that's a bit of a danger still. So it's not completely over yet.
It is not over. Well. And also, when you look at the time, of course, there is going to be some pressure there. And Richard is just looking at ways that he can keep control on this position because he also has to think about White maybe maximizing that rook there on the 6th line and pushing forward with a pawn there on the right. And he's pushed his big pawn all the way to the 7th square. That is 1 square away from queening.
The other problem Richard has here to convert this is he only has about a minute left and he's not getting any extra time. I think he's defending and playing this position brilliantly at the moment because he's managed to neutralize that strong pawn of White's. White now putting black in check there, but he's got to play quickly. He's got 55 seconds left. That's not a lot of time.
It is not a lot of time.
What's happening here? Oh, I think he's won his piece back. Oh my words, Nodirbek has won the piece back. Any result now possible. He's won that back. It should still probably be a draw, which means that Richard would progress, but it's getting better for White. Every move it seems to be getting better.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Armageddon is all about the clock, the 17th piece on the board. And Richard just has 42 seconds left on the clock. And he does have 1 big asset, and that is that passed pawn there on the right side. It's moving up the board, but can he hold this position with so little time?
Well, this is the problem. You've got to keep an eye on the clock. I think it's going to come down to who loses on time. Richard attacking that bishop. You can't do that. You've got to play quickly. He hesitated there, and hesitation is going to lose you the game. He's got 30 seconds. He's got to play quicker, Richard, at the moment. This is a bit too slow. I think he's picking up the pace a bit here, Jovanka, but I really don't know which ways this is going to go now.
No, this is anyone's game, and we can just see Richard hesitating there in this time scramble, and Nodirbek playing quickly, setting some traps.
And they are both playing as quickly as they can, but now Richard's king is also in a little bit of trouble. This should be okay for Richard on the board, but he's got 16 seconds left. This is not enough time. He's going to lose on time, Richard. 12 seconds, 11 seconds.
10 seconds.
You've got to move, Richard. You've got to move, and he's not moving in time. He's just playing too slowly, and the time is going to get to 0, and he's going to lose on the clock here.
He's going to lose on the clock, just 2 seconds. And there we see Nodirbek now picking up the bishop. And look at that. Richard is trying with just 2 seconds on the clock.
With his king there? I think he's kind of given up there, isn't he? Look at the disgust there. And it is checkmate on the board. That is heartbreaking for Richard. He had that game in the bag there.
Yeah. It looked like it was all one-way traffic after Richard won that piece. But Nodirbek, he showed how he's so resourceful. He kept the game alive and he managed to take it down to those final seconds. And that is where Richard just cracked.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was an Armageddon game. We pretty much had everything we could hope for there. We had drama, we had ups and downs, we had both players winning at certain moments, and in the end, it came down to the clock and the speed of moving the pieces, and that is one of the most important factors in the Armageddon game. How quickly you can move, because you can't get your clock down to 0, you lose the game.
Exactly. And yeah, you said it there, Simon. It was a scrappy win for Nodirbek, but a win nonetheless. And it showed great resourcefulness, great tenacity. And we have to say, hats off to the teenager.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of the highlights here. And this idea that Richard played was A very nice idea. That knight was coming around actually to find a very key square, and this move was a bit of a bluff from Nodirbek. He just missed a little tactical idea there after he moved the knight in, and after that Richard even went a whole piece up, but it started to go wrong around here when his pieces were overextended, and with this last move he couldn't control all of his pieces, and you see White winning the piece back here. Richard now still was doing okay when he needed a draw, but it was down on the clock and he was 20 seconds lower on the clock, which was key.
Yeah, just too hesitant, unfortunately for Richard, but well played by Nodirbek.
Yes, it was very well played in the end, and that's what chess is about. You've got to fight until the bitter end, and you can see the end of the game here with the rook coming down, and it was all who can move the pieces the quickest here, and there goes another piece there, and yeah, I mean, just the way Richard's moving there, he's kind of like given up at this point, really. You can see it. He's not really playing with much ambition there, and understandably, yeah, he's going to be a little bit frustrated. I mean, it's really horrible to lose a game like that when you've got a winning position. You get a winning position, you think you're going to go through, you make some mistakes, and you know, at the end you feel so angry, don't you? I mean, losing a game like that, I mean, it's
tough.
Heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking, and it's very emotional, and it's the kind of loss that will set you off on a tilt. But Richard will have a day to recover, and there we final score. We had our very first Armageddon, and it was Nodirbek Abdusattorov, just 18 years old, who was the victor in that Armageddon game. And well, it was a game and a match that provided us with all the excitement, all the drama.
It did indeed, yeah. It's an exciting game, and we actually have the winner of that match with us. So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Smooth victory.
Smooth.
Smoothish. Yeah, I mean, talk us through it. So the first game seemed very good. It went pretty okay.
Yeah, the first game was very smooth, I guess. Yeah, I was kind of prepared against this line, and yeah, I played quickly, and I got some sort of pleasant endgame where I managed to win. And yeah, second game, I think I got quite a good position of the opening, and then he started to outplay me a little bit. And yeah, I started to weaken my king side with h6, g5. This was, I think, unnecessary. And then yeah, I was also low on time, and yeah, I just blundered the knight on e4. Yeah, and the Armageddon was yeah, of course. Yeah, it was crazy, and yeah, it was full of mistakes. But I hope at least it was fun to watch.
It was certainly fun to watch. Yeah, I mean, we had no idea what was going on. I mean, you played the knight e6, and you had this very clever knight c5.
Yeah, I missed knight c5,
which is really easy to miss in the time. But then you fought so hard after that, right?
Yeah, you know, I had to speed up, to get some chance.
Yeah. But did you think you were going to lose that one at some point?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, a nice relief.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was impressive resourcefulness, I have to say. And going into this match, there's always the possibility of Armageddon. Did you have a strategy up your sleeve? Did you choose the white pieces?
Yeah, I did choose white pieces because in the previous tournament I also got 2 white against Param and Kramnik, where I managed successfully to flag both of them.
It's great to see you have 100% flagging now. This is your strength. Just flag. Get the white pieces and flag them. So this is the...
Clearly in the Armageddon I prefer to play white. You know, it's I think the least stressful to play with white. You know, you just play and continue the game and hope to win on time or on position. I think it's a bit easier for me.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, it was a really good performance. And we can have a look at the heart rates here. And we were a bit worried about Richard's heart rate at one moment there. 175, but 129. I know you do quite a lot of exercise as well. That helps your chess?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Looking at the Richie's heartbeat, I think I have this heartbeat when I jog. So it's
he's doing a bit of a marathon there where he plays.
Yeah,
so
it's surprising, but yeah, 129. I think it's quite acceptable. I mean, for the start, it's going to be smooth. I think during the event.
Yeah, definitely.
And moving on ahead, so if we take a look at the brackets, we can see that you'll be playing the winner of either Bibisara or Humpy Koneru. Have you ever played any of these two women?
No, actually, I haven't played with both of them, I think, in my career. So it will be interesting to.
Do you have a preference there of who you'd rather play?
I mean, no idea. I mean, they're both, I think, the same level. I think so.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much. You kept us very entertained there. It's really, I mean, you must feel relieved. You can go and relax now a little bit, which is good. And we're going to show some highlights now from the action.
And the FIDE online arena hosts rated tournaments and games 24 hours per day. Join the arena and you'll get a FIDE ID, a profile on FIDE.com, and access to pro chess community, as well as access to prize money, tournaments, and so much more. So play official games at chessarena.com.
Well, that was a great first game, and if that's anything to go by, we're in for a brilliant day of chess. And next up, we have this amazing match between Humpy and Bibisara. And, I think we should have a bit of a deeper dive at these two players who have played a couple of times before, Jovanka.
Yeah, they played each other twice in May during the Women's Week. Bibisara's then won 3 games to 1 and 1 draw. And they've actually played 29 games against each other. And here we can take a look at some of Humpy's achievements.
Yeah, Humpy, a great player. She's was a grandmaster at one of the youngest ages for any woman out there, and that was at the age of 15. She's won so many titles. She's been Indian Women's Champion. She's been Women's World Rapid Champion quite recently as well, and she even got Sportsman of the Year over in India. And let's hear a bit more about her now.
Humpy Koneru is third on the all-time best women's rating list. She has had a rating of over 2,600 for many years. The first-round clash was already a battle of titans as she had to face former world champion Alexandra Kostelyuk. She won a topsy-turvy game by the closest of margins. In round 2, she lost her first encounter against the youngest and possibly most accomplished blitz player in the field, Bibisara Assaubayeva, and hence found herself in the lower bracket. She was then unstoppable. She defeated local hero Elizabeth Petz with a perfect score before eliminating Alina Kashlinskaya and Gune Mamadzada to reach the finals and claim her ticket to the grand finale. However, Bibisara turned out to be too powerful an opponent for Humpy to overcome. She's one more legend to join our star-studded lineup. Will she have what it takes to come and claim the title?
Yes, she's an impressive player, but she will be up against a formidable opponent. Bibisara Assaubayeva is just 19 years old, and she's from Kazakhstan, became Grandmaster at 16 years old, and also she is the 2-time Women's World Blitz Champion. In fact, she was the youngest Women's World Champion in Blitz ever. And fun fact, she's also a rhythmic gymnastics champion. And let's hear more about Bibisara and her route to the grand finale.
19-year-old Bibisara Assaubayeva is already 2-time Women's Blitz World Champion. She arrived in Berlin a favorite and did not disappoint. In round 1, she defeated Georgian legend Nana Zagnitsa, who couldn't handle clock pressure. In the second round, it took her an Armageddon game to break the tie in her match against Humpy Koneru, who she would later meet in the finals. In the all-important semis, she was able to overcome Guni Mamadzada in the blitz portion and had by that point already locked her spot for the grand finale. In the finals, Bibisara showed dominance in blitz and won the event, thus achieving the ever-difficult task of confirming her favorite status. This week's grand finale will be quite another pair of sleeves, now that all the top 2 finishers gather.
We're only moments away now from this match, and yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see who progresses and faces the winner of that last match. And I don't know, it's a clash of 2 styles. You have Bibisara, who's really tactical. She's like fire on the board, loves crazy positions. You've got Humpy, who is a positional player, likes calmer positions and the slow sort of grinding away, that nibble we talked about earlier. So very hard to call, Jovanka.
It is certainly a difficult match, and remember, both these players have already played 2 matches against each other in the women's week. Will it be third time lucky for Humpy Koneru with the white pieces? Well, we will find out as we are seconds away from the start of the second match. And Humpy, she's traditionally a queen's pawn player. She likes her close positions. She likes a solid, stable advantage. And Bibisara, will we see her employ a wild opening? And that's it, they are off.
And we see quite a calm opening. This is called the Reti, but it generally leads to this more positional type of game, which we expect. And in return, Bibisara is playing that opening Richard Rapport's played, the King's Indian Defence. And that has a more tactical nature, but this setup that White's going for, double fianchetto, meaning both the bishops crisscross the board from the side. So the centre of the board, very important, and Humpy trying to control the centre from the side here. And calm start.
Calm, it is certainly calm start, but everything will happen in the middle game, and we already see that Bibisara, she's aggressively stated her intentions by pushing a pawn forward in the middle of the board, and Humpy is just focusing on piece development. But it's interesting, how will Humpy try and challenge her opponent? Will she strike out in the center right now, or will she prepare it some more?
I mean, look at the heart rates as well there. Humpy obviously feeling the pressure somewhat with her heart rate going up to 144, but also Bibisara with quite a high heart rate of 129. I mean, let me tell you, in that arena, when you're playing, it is scary. It's really tense. The lights are on you. You know people are watching. You're trying to concentrate at the same time. It's a difficult experience.
It is intense experience. I mean, we even heard it from the players themselves. You know, when they got into the studio, they were completely starstruck.
They were.
It was difficult for them to focus. And there we see Humpy. She's making a very calm move there in the center.
I think Humpy's tactic here is basically to take it very calm in the start of the game, in the middle of the game. She doesn't want to allow Bibisara too many tactics. But one of the big problems that Humpy had, even though she did qualify, but a big problem she did have in the qualifications was her time handling. She spent a lot of time early on, and this got her in trouble, and she just qualified because of her exceptional play, but she's got to watch the clock. It is blitz chess. You can't just sit there like in an armchair, you know, chilling out a little bit, just taking your time, maybe read a paper at the same time. You've got to move.
No, you can't just sit there and have a cup of tea. You've got to start making those moves fast. And, well, Humpy has sped up. She's now pushed her pawn in the middle of the board 2 squares forward, and also just covered some squares there with that little move there.
Fairly even so far, though. Black's also doing a good strategy. Again, we saw Richard Rapport use the knight in the last game in the same way that Black has here. Humpy just positioning her rook behind her pawns, so when the position opens up, that rook will be protecting them in a nice way there. And it really is just trying to work out how your pieces are best placed. At some point, when it opens up, you need those pieces on their perfect squares there.
Yeah, and both sides are actually getting ready for that opening. Will it happen in the middle of the board? Will it perhaps happen on the left side of the board? Will Humpy try to... there it goes.
There
It's finally here. We finally have action, and it's no longer a wait and see.
Yes, the opening of the center leads us into quite a typical position here. You actually call this structure, this middle game structure, the Maroczy bind. Those two white pawns, they give what is considered a bit of a bind, a bit of control over the center of the board. And the Maroczy bind was coined a term by the player Maroczy, surprisingly enough, not by the player bind. That'd be a bit weird. And black also keeping very solid and just waiting for the next turn of events here.
Yeah, and we see with that little pawn move that Humpy is actually preparing an expansion there on the left side of the board. She was planning to kick back the knight from its strong post.
And with that last move, black controls that pawn from going forwards, and Humpy just moving the bishop out of the way. That seems like a strange move, but maybe the rook is going to come over and protect the pawn a little bit more, and they're still doing a bit of a dance here. This last move though creates a threat. Black may take that knight in the middle, so Humpy now guarding that knight, that strong white knight in the middle of the board with her other knight. Very tense game here. They're both playing very good chess so far.
Yeah, and both sides trying to keep control. For Humpy Koneru, it's all about whether she can tuck her king, get into safety, and then start lifting some pawns at the right time. And, well, Bibisara using that slow move from Humpy just to come forward with the knight in the middle. Is she perhaps preparing a knight to jump onto the d3 square? Well, we'll find out. I'm expecting Humpy to... She's just improving the placing of her bishop. I was expecting her to move the king to the corner and get ready to start pawn storming on the right side.
Yeah, this position I always find a bit easier for white to play this Maroczy bind because white has the pawn pushes. Both of the white pawns might come forwards and attack the black knights, and we could see this now. So Bibisara trying to unbalance the queen side, but white destabilizing that knight by attacking it with the pawn. The knight has to retreat, but Bibisara's idea is to get an attack on the other white pawn. So the black knight's very centrally placed here.
Yep, and well, Humpy trading knights, but now how is Humpy going to defend that pawn on c4? It's under fire, and she attacks the queen. The queen has to move backwards, but how? How is that pawn defendable? You can't.
Well, I think you have to push it forwards, but then the bishop comes in, so this is a tricky situation. Look at the time, Humpy, you've got to move. You've got 14 seconds left, and at this moment it's not Armageddon, so let's remember the players, every time they make a move, they do get an extra 2 seconds added onto their clock, but that's not a lot of time.
It's certainly not a lot of time, and well, this 1 minute is allowing Bibisara to calculate whether she can grab the pawn, and she does.
She's gone for a weird exchange there, Jovanka. Very exciting.
It is totally exciting, and now, well, Humpy, she is making all the intermediate moves. Instead of moving her queen, she's traded pawns in the middle of the board. But is that going to benefit her at all?
I think there was some chances missed there, but this is getting very exciting now. And I think Bibisara's sacrifice did not work so well here. Or did it? I mean, keep an eye on the clock, though. 10 seconds against 46. And the material, well, it's actually still pretty balanced, isn't it, after what's just happened?
Yeah, it is still very much imbalanced, and it's all going to be about whether Bibisara can activate her rooks, get them to work on the open lines. And Humpy playing a very nice move. When you're short on time, just overprotect your king.
And Bibisara using a lot of pins here at this moment in time, and we now can see the queen's been exchanged. Now Humpy is an expert at this part of the game, the ending. This is where she really thrives, but black's rook could be very dangerous here. That black rook can come in and hassle the white knight and maybe win a pawn over on that side of the board. You can see black's pawn is very advanced, so Humpy just trying to keep her pawns defended with her knight. She's found a good defensive idea there, Humpy.
Yes, she has found a good defensive idea for the knight, but unfortunately it's getting kicked about. And take a look at that light square bishop. Oh, it's got no use whatsoever. There's no way that Humpy can get it into the game, and now that is a killer pawn on the right side.
It is indeed, and that pawn is only 2 squares from queening, and in the ending all you want to do is get your pawn to the other end of the board and get a queen. White now has to sacrifice her bishop for that pawn, and Bibisara has a great position at this moment in time with her rook being able to probably pick up the pawns. There's some drawing chances here for Humpy, but not many. Her pawns are just too weak here. The rook is so much better than the knight in the ending.
It certainly is. And also, I was going to say she can try and cut off the king, and instead Bibisara going for the materialistic approach, which is just to grab that pawn.
Very nice play there from Bibisara. She's now the exchange, the rook for a knight up and a pawn up. What do you do in the ending? You want to use your king. So Bibisara is starting to use her king, but the way she's got to win this, she's got 2 pawns against 1. She will have to try and get one of her pawns all the way down to the other end of the board, create a queen. And she's going into an ending here. Has she worked this out well? It's a king and pawn ending. She gave her rook up for that knight. It could be a brilliant idea. I think she just has to go check here. She's calculating it. She's got 14 seconds. This move also winning. I expect Humpy will resign. Great game from Bibisara.
And with the black pieces as well, impressive, just impressive the way that she calculated that trade and how her rooks were going to be way more superior than Humpy's minor pieces. And there we can see it. Bibisara Assaubayeva takes the lead.
Yeah, really close game there. I mean, there was loads of tactics in the middle part, and actually in the ending where Humpy's normally strongest, she actually suffered there, but I think her position was just too bad at the end part there, so there's not much she could do, unfortunately. And winning with black is really important, because you got white and you should better control the game with white.
Exactly, you can set the pace, and let's take a look at some of the replays. And this was the moment where Bibisara, she took some time out, she calmly calculated these complications that she could throw in this move to attack the queen. And here it was just the case of that the 2 black rooks were way more superior than the minor pieces.
Yeah, and that gave her a nice little edge there. And as we see the game developing here, we saw more exchanges on the board, and this was another pin. A pin is where you pin down one of your opponent's pieces. Humpy throwing the pieces off the board there, but the issue here is that black's rook was just too good, and white couldn't use her bishop in a good way there, and actually had to lose it in the end. So yeah, very nice endgame technique from Bibisara there.
And we'll see, here is the moment where Humpy had to give up her bishop in order to stop that pawn from promoting, and from here on now you can just see Bibisara be absolutely ruthless. That rook is fantastic at mopping up the pawns.
Yeah, that rook reminds me of Pac-Man there, just wow, 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 just going along, gobbling all the pawns there, showing my age there a little bit with Pac-Man. And this was a brilliant way to end the game, and it's all about if black can win that last pawn. And with this move, white has no way to really hang on to that pawn. She's going to run out of moves. Next move, black will take the pawn, being 2 pawns up, one of the pawns will queen, end of the game. Humpy now needs to win.
She does, and we are less than a minute away from the start of the second game, of the second match. And Humpy playing with the black pieces, well, she needs to shake things up, because Bibisara is able to control the pace of the game when she has the white pieces. She's going to play in a very solid style.
Yeah, one thing that actually surprised me quite a lot about Humpy's play is that she plays very slowly, but then when she gets very short of time, the quality of her play drastically increases. She can play quick, but she just needs to play quicker at the right time. And I think what the right strategy for Humpy here is to just play quickly at the start, so you got more time to calculate when the position gets complicated. 10 seconds to go. Humpy with black needs to win this game. Are we going to get 2 Armageddons today?
Well, you never know, anything can happen. And handshake, and they are off. How is Bibisara going to open? Well, she also opens up with a c-pawn. This is the English, and there we can see Humpy already has a heart rate of 137, and this is a nice move from Humpy. She needs to win, so she decides to go for the most aggressive response.
Yep, this is when she's played f5. This is a version of one of my favorite openings called the Dutch defense, but I don't like it here because of this move, d4. This move is actually known to be quite pleasant for white. Okay, Humpy moving on with the pawn, but this gives away a lot of squares. Those black pawns, you might look good that you're pushing them a long way up the board, but I generally personally don't like this because you give away a lot of squares. Pawns can't go backwards. Once you move them up, they're committed.
And someone else that is not a big fan of black's position is the evaluation bar all the way on the right. You can see it showing some plus 1.1 advantage for white. And Bibisara, with that little pawn move, is just taking away the b4 square from the dark square bishop.
Yeah, I really like this last move of Bibisara, and now I expect her knight to come to the edge of the board, and instead she's playing much more aggressive. This is typical Bibisara. She could have played in a slower way, but she pushes forwards in the center of the board. This is just her all over, you know, picking the most exciting, aggressive move. And
but is it too much?
I think it's okay. I wouldn't have played it. I would have played. I'm not even that aggressive now. I'm kind of known as being an aggressive player, but for me, that's even a bit too aggressive, which is surprising. We're going to find out. I mean, what is Humpy going to do? Well, that's an odd-looking move. Putting the bishop in front of that pawn doesn't look very safe, that bishop there, but maybe it's going to slide into the center on the next move.
And there we see Bibisara getting ready to develop her light squared bishop. It seems a bit like it's going in the wrong direction,
Should have
right?
pushed that 2 squares, that pawn, rather than 1. That would have been much more exciting. And I think because black's playing so slowly, white should have taken advantage of that and played quicker herself. And if Humpy's able to get castled, I think Humpy will have a pretty good position here.
And there we see Bibisara develop her knight to the edge of the board. That knight is going to relocate herself to the f4 square and support the center. And now the light square bishop is developed. And I feel like Humpy has done a really nice space grab. She played provocatively, but she has some great pawns in the middle of the board. And Humpy now just getting the queen out to the left and to attack this pawn on c3.
Yeah, quite a risky strategy though, because I don't think you want to take the pawn on c3. You can see white has these pawns which are called double pawns, and Jovanka mentioned Beth Harmon, the famous fictional character, didn't like these pawns, and they are weak. But I love this move from Bibisara. She's basically saying, yep, you can win one of those pawns, but your king is not castled. And I would never take that pawn, Jovanka.
Playing with fire. I thought she was actually going to grab the pawn in the middle of the board. The d5 pawn, you know, if you're going to be greedy, choose your greed.
I mean, you're a pawn grabber normally, Jovanka, but even you don't like that move, right?
No, I'm not afraid. I'm not a big fan of that move because it opens up all the dark squares for the white bishop. And, well, Humpy, she castles the king.
But there's a real problem here. White can use the pawn in the center at some point to go forwards. Probably on the next move, that white pawn can go 1 square forwards, and she has this real grip in the middle. But Humpy is just grabbing everything. Maybe she has to play like this. She does need to win. Why not take as many pawns as you can? But surely Bibisara should push that pawn forwards now.
She has to, otherwise that queen will get out of dodge and go back to the middle of the board. And Bibisara, we're waiting for you to lock down the position, and instead she retreats the bishop. Now that is a little bit mysterious, but she's setting up a trap. There is a big threat of pawn takes pawn, and then the bishop will dive in to d6, attacking both the queen and the rook.
Yeah, there's a crafty idea behind that, but it is 2 pawns to the good for Humpy. The problem with Humpy's position is, look at her pieces on the left-hand side. They're all sleeping. They're being a bit lazy today. Someone needs to wake them up. They've overslept. She needs to get them in the game, but she still doesn't have a chance to move the bishop. The bishop can't move. It's blocked by the pawns. If you move the knight, white does the trap that Jovanka pointing out. So instead she has to open up the center first, and this means that white's rook now gains a very nice open file. It's really in the balance, this one. Very interesting position. Valuation bar likes Humpy's position, but computers are quite greedy. Humans less so. I'd prefer to be white here personally.
I'm always going to favor the greed, and I feel like here Humpy's gamble has paid off, and I love Bibisara's next move, just destabilizing the black center.
You've got to try to open up things, and I agree that Humpy is now over the worst. This could be going to another Armageddon if she can just get her other pieces developed. So Bibisara throwing pieces into the middle of the board. Humpy's time though, she's doing it again. 23 seconds left against Bibisara, 1 minute 11. Humpy under 20 seconds, and you just can't play at a top quality standard when you have less thinking time. And Humpy speeding up now, but is it too little too late, Jovanka?
I don't know. The position is still massively complicated. We see that Bibisara has the bishop pair, but she is down material, and Bibisara now attacking the pawn on f5. How is Humpy going to defend it? Well, first of all, she makes a trade of pawns, and oh, that's a nice recapture from Bibisara, attacking the queen. And well, there's one pawn fallen, and so many light squares for white just to enjoy.
Yeah, with that last move, Humpy is trying to take the bishop, but now Bibisara is not even one pawn down. She grabs the pawn in the middle, and I like the way Bibisara has positioned her pieces near to black's king there. Humpy with her last move, threatening to take white's queen with the knight. I'm pretty sure Bibisara will see that move. Bibisara also getting shorter time. I think we're going to expect a really exciting finish to this game. It's going to be a mad time scramble.
Yeah, I think so too. And there we see, well, Bibisara is building up an attack, doubling the rooks on the F line and now retreating the bishop. She wants to hold on to that strong pawn on E6. And remember, Humpy is in a must-win situation, and the clock is ticking down for Bibisara.
And Humpy is now playing actually quicker than her opponent, and Bibisara using all of her might in the center, all of her might on the king side to try and break through. But Humpy has a blockade with her rooks at this moment in time, and the blockade is holding so far. But let's remember, Humpy does need to win this game. She's under 10 seconds. Bibisara, 20 seconds left. In with a check there. And where is that rook though? It looks like it's floating between two squares. Put it on the right square, please. It's a drunken rook there. Okay, thank you. It's on the right square now.
It is, and well, we see that rook checking the white king, and now Humpy is repeating moves, and now she's bringing her queen into the game. But this is risky stuff, and now Bibisara simply protecting the king. So much danger because...
Oh, but Bibisara's time here. Look at the clock. Bibisara has 6 seconds left, and Humpy is outplaying her at the moment. She grabs a pawn. Humpy is now going back to being a pawn up here, and it looks like she has a pretty nice position. That black knight is causing so many problems. The queen comes in with a check. That white king has to come out. But it's all on the clock, I feel.
It is all on the clock, and take a look at Humpy's last move, just dislodging the bishop, and now the bishop has to be very careful where it puts itself. Oh, the white king is in so much danger, and Humpy just making some fast moves in order just to build up time on the clock. King is forced black, and now the knight comes in.
And it is, or can Humpy win this game? It looks like the king is so weak. This could be near a checkmate. The knight can check. The king goes up. There's another check, but is the king escaping? I think it's going to be mate. Checkmate on the board. Boom! Put it out of your pipe and smoke it. A nice checkmate. I was getting excited there.
I could tell.
Thank you.
And that's it, Simon. We are going to our second Armageddon.
Oh.
Things are going to speed up and get more intense if that was not intense enough for you. And there we can see the scores in the match. 1-1. Humpy Koneru winning on demand with the black pieces.
Yeah, 2 Armageddons in one day, hey? I mean, we couldn't ask for more. We're getting all the excitement today. We got no Armageddons yesterday, and yeah, we got 2 today. And well, who's going to win this one? I've got no idea.
It seems like
Crazy.
the first match of the day sets the tone, and here is a moment where Humpy, she took some risks. She played an adventurous opening, and then she got greedy. She just rocked the material.
Yeah, I mean, the greed actually paid off, though. She started grabbing pawns there. I mean, when we say grabbing pawns, it was really risky. Sometimes you can win pawns, but you make your position a lot worse. And around about here, you can see that Bibisara, I think, started to get the initiative. This was a great move. Bishop takes pawn, and you can see White's bishop's kind of floating on those diagonals there, causing a lot of problems for Humpy. But then Humpy came back around this part, and the end of this game was quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Jovanka.
Yeah, and the players with not that much time to spare. They're just trying to make moves in order to build up that time on the clock just to get some moments to think. And here is the moment where Humpy just introduced the knight into the fray. And wow, she also calculated really cleanly at the end.
She did, yeah, a lot more cleanly than me. I mean, it looked like the White King was in a lot of trouble, but Humpy had seen ahead. We say this is a really good skill in chess that you've got to foresee, but around about here, it is checkmate. This is the second move, this is the third move, and it's checkmate on the fourth move here. So Humpy had to see 4 moves ahead there with only about a second on the clock at this level. That is quite easy for the players. They are, of course, all fantastic calculators.
Yeah, definitely. And now we are less than a minute away from our second Armageddon of the day. The players will be there waiting in the darkness. They will have to calm down after all that drama from game 2. 35 seconds. Who do you think's chosen the white pieces?
I mean, I think there's something very important here, there isn't there, Jovanka? That, okay, we can see the lovely studio, that Humpy doesn't get that extra time now. So if she plays at the same pace she's been playing, she will lose.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. She's getting down to 10, 20 seconds, but then she gets 2 seconds every move. In Armageddon, you get no extra time. She needs to play quicker.
Yep, and let's remind ourselves of the rules of the game. White will have 5 minutes. There's in a must-win situation. Black will have 4 minutes and gets draw odds. And Bibisara is playing with the white pieces, so Humpy will now have to play fast and furiously.
Bibisara must win then with the white pieces. She's playing the English opening again. Quite a positional setup here, and Humpy grabs a pawn already. She's a pawn grabber. I mean, she loves capturing pawns, but with the last move, Bibisara winning that pawn back with her queen. Humpy, I think, you know, with her time scenario, she's got to not pause like here. She's got to move. She can't do this too often. She can't spend 10 seconds move. They don't get add extra time. What's she doing?
No,
She's got to move.
This is very much opening theory. She has to have made a decision here. You know, is she going to step forward with a C pawn and move it 2 squares? Is she just simply going to develop? Okay, there we go. She does push this pawn 2 squares forward. I was wondering also, does she just develop the dark squared bishop? And Bibisara, now she is going to be playing not only with the extra time, but also the power of this light square bishop hiding away.
The thing is, she spent 1/8 of her time on a move that she knows already. 1/8 of her time, 30 seconds there on a move that she should know. So she's got to play quicker. And I think if I was Bibisara, I'd just play at the same speed and see what happens. And she is speeding up now, so this is good. Humpy playing a little bit quicker. Pretty standard position here.
Yep.
I do like what Bibisara's done with that pawn on the left-hand side, cramping Black's position a bit with that lone stranger over there.
Absolutely, just locking down Black's play on that side of the board. And now Bibisara getting ready to develop her pieces. And well, now Humpy has broken out. Her rook and knight are now activated. Now this does mean that Black's pawns there on the left side of the board are weak. They are vulnerable and isolated. And Humpy, she has quickened the pace and she's coming forward with her own pawns, simplifying the position. It's a good strategy. It's just the clock time that is concerning.
Yeah, the clock time is very concerning. Bibisara decides to keep pawns on the board. The valuation bar, let's keep an eye on that as well throughout. It's pretty even. Heart rate, Humpy is quite high, generally is quite high. But she has now quite good central control. White has more pawns in the center, but she's got to develop her last pieces. And there you go, she gets one of her knights out to start with there.
It is a good stuff. And there we see the bishop develop. Black has a very normal position. It's very balanced. And Bibisara just maintaining the tension. I would say that this position is just actually very nice for Bibisara. She's got a lot of play on the board. She's kept a lot of the pieces. And of course, the most important thing, she's got more time on the clock.
Yeah, in this kind of position, if you can keep that 1 minute advantage and not do anything silly, then that will pay dividends later on in the game. As we saw how Richard Rapport lost the game. He lost it because of his time scenario. And they're both playing normal moves. It seems a fairly even position to me. Good natural moves. Humpy is quickening up now. She needs to do this. She's got the right tempo. Bibisara trying to win that pawn there, and Humpy coming to defend that pawn with her bishop. And Black has nice control in the middle.
Right, and White has to be very careful because she can push the pawn on c4 1 square and just open up the diagonal for the bishop on the left side of the board. And instead, Humpy just aligns her pieces very nicely, and Bibisara reinforcing the protection of the b2 pawn.
Yeah, bringing the bishop back and also opening the white rook. The white rook now looking at that weakened pawn. So the black rook comes and laterally defends the black pawn on the left-hand side here. And if I was Bibisara, I'd probably move my knight now, try to force some exchanges to happen. But where would I move that knight to? And actually, Humpy's catching up on that time advantage. 152 heart rate versus 121. Sensible move there, developing the pawn. Humpy playing a very quick move. I like this change of pace from Black here.
Yeah, definitely. And we can see the clock times. Bibisara just has, a 20-second plus clock time advantage, and now she's retreating the knight. This is crafty stuff because it's puzzling as well, and Humpy, she's not phased. She just piles up on the b pawn.
Yeah, Humpy has a very solid position here. Remember, Black only needs a draw to progress to the next round, but there's a lot of pieces on the board, so I don't think we've seen the main action yet. Humpy aiming for more exchanges there, very sensible, and now they're pretty much even on time. Is Bibisara going to push in the middle? She first improves her king, maybe she'll improve her knight next. The white knight is not a good piece. You might as well move that to a better square, try to get it on a better circuit, and she does. The white knight comes on a better circuit, comes towards the center here. Very, very tense at the moment.
Totally. And decision time for Humpy. What is she going to do with the bishop? And she decides that she's going to keep it there, but we just saw the evaluation bar shoot up in White's favor. There was a big opportunity there for White to strike.
Yeah, but it's back to being okay again, and Humpy just trying to keep control of the light squares. Her bishop guards pawns. If the knight takes the bishop, the queen can come in and recapture. I think it's going to come down to the clock. This is the kind of position where you just need to keep the tempo up. Don't think too much. And why is she thinking so much here?
She's thinking, and look at that. Bibisara has less time than Humpy on the clock.
And she's got to move. She's now down to under 1.5 minutes. No extra time each move. You can't think like this. She's made an exchange. So now that her rook is free to move, is she going to capture the pawn with her rook? Nope, she comes back to defend. And I quite like what she's done here because the white rook has this attack coming up. Humpy counter-attacking.
Hang on a second. Isn't there a big move? You can push the c-pawn forward and unleash the bishop.
Well, then pawn takes might hold on and you threaten Black's rook, but a great idea there, I think. Yeah, it's very possible, something that has to be looked out for, but I think it's going to come down to the clock. 1 minute 14 versus 1 minute 17. The evaluation bar said it's dead even. This could go either way here. It's too hard to predict who is going to progress to the next round. And let's remind everyone, this is a key match. These are two of the lower rated people on grades, on ranking in this competition. So if they progress, they get a big money boost here. That white knight trying to find some better squares. 1 minute each now. It is what we call a bullet game.
It is a bullet game, and we just see Bibisara just shoveling the knight backwards and forwards. But okay, again, some big moments. Is Bibisara going to strike out in the center? Is she going to carry on waiting, or is she going to grab some pawns? Instead, she improves the queen, and this has come at the cost of that pawn, and she has also grabbed material with her rooks. And how is Humpy going to play this? Pin the knight.
So unsurprisingly, Bibisara is trying to get her rook in for the attack. Bibisara loves attacking. And remember, if they repeat the position 3 times, it is a draw. So she can't keep going backwards and forwards with the rook because white needs to win. This is why Bibisara had to play this move now. Look at the clocks. It's 30 seconds. And Bibisara, she's playing too slowly here. I thought it was Humpy who was going to be in trouble on the clock, but it's actually Bibisara. And she's just got to pick up the pace here. She's now down to 22 seconds.
It's not much time. Anything can happen. And there we do see Bibisara speed up and Humpy now going on the offensive with those pawns. And it's just about making those moves as fast as possible because the position is wild. Anything can happen. It doesn't matter about moves and blunders. It's just going to be about the clock.
It really doesn't matter anymore, as you say, Jovanka, what happens on the board. It's what happens on the clock. And then neck and neck. I still can't say who's going to win this. It's Humpy who's got the slight edge of a couple of seconds, but you've just got to move here. Just move quickly. Bibisara coming in with the queen. Try to start an attack here. It's 10 seconds against 9. And who can move their hand the quickest here? 6 seconds against 7. She fought. She loses her queen. Yes. Humpy wins the queen. And it's checkmate.
With 3 seconds on the clock.
Wow.
Humpy finds a checkmate after Bibisara blunders the queen. Wow. What a game. What a roller coaster of a game. And Humpy walks away the winner.
Wow, what an exciting day in chess today. And I thought it was going to be Humpy who was going to get in trouble on the clock. And I think had Bibisara not lost her queen at the end there, it was just a toss of a coin. It could have gone either way. They were both down to 4 seconds. Whoever got to 0 first would have lost. And it just came. She kept her cool better though, didn't she, Humpy?
Yeah.
She got checkmate on the board. Yeah, phenomenal.
In the center of the board. Absolutely stellar performance from Humpy. And remember, Humpy had to win on demand as well, the black pieces.
Yeah, she did. She had to win on demand, meaning, you have to, it was just going backwards and forwards the whole way, that match. Very exciting, with Bibisara taking the first game and Humpy just proving her fighting spirit there. Yeah. To come back and to keep her cool like that was incredibly impressive there.
Yeah.
So, well done, Humpy.
Yeah, and we have to mention our sponsors, Kaspersky. And as a technology and digital privacy company, Kaspersky supports the secure advancement of chess in the digital space and its expansion into online tournaments. It's the perfect combination of human excellence and strong technology.
Yeah, well, you can't get more excitement than that in one day. I mean, that was everything you could wish for. We had ups and downs. And let's now just have a look at the brackets and see who has progressed. And remember, no one is knocked out yet because you have the lowest section. They get a second chance. But there we go. The winners going through and the losers dropping down.
Yeah, and it's going to be elimination day tomorrow as the players in the lower bracket, they fight it out for survival. Things will get rough. They will get ready and it's going to get fast and furious.
It is very, very exciting. And you've got to obviously stay tuned because we're going to be back tomorrow. And let's just hope we get that kind of excitement again.
Oh,
Jovanka.
for sure, Simon. We are going to see more of the same. So don't miss us tomorrow, same time, same place.